The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, April 20th, 2018, also known as 420, for those of you who are aware. So anyway, I've been gone for a few days. Took a trip over to Chicago. Granted, it was a one-day trip. I flew in and flew right back out the same day. I was just so exhausted yesterday, so I'm super grateful to my friends, Matt Sinkowitz and Max Inhofe, taking care of yesterday's show with a fabulous show. I had a chance to listen to the entire thing. I think it was a fabulous show. While I was gone, the local station here in Atlanta, WABE, it's an NPR affiliated station. They ran a piece on our friend, my colleague, works with me at progressivearmy.com. She's actually my partner at progressivearmy.com, Noah Chunga. And the article was written by one Johnny Kaufman, who I just found out is following me on Twitter. So I DM'd him. And you've been following it for, if you are on Twitter, you've been following, so you know what's going on. The article is entitled, Atlanta Activist Uses Russian-Backed Media to Spread Message. Now, I have specific questions that I'm going to ask of the editor of this piece, as well as the journalist who wrote the piece, as well as the station who ran the piece. Very specific questions because, well, I've obtained audio of a portion of the interview that that Johnny Kaufman, the guy who wrote it, I obtained audio of his interview with Richard Winfield, I believe is his name, and Johnny Kaufman asserted in the article that Winfield said that he would not have gone on a Noah Chunga's show. And if listening to 30 minutes of the audio of the interview between the two, nowhere in that interview did he make that assertion. So that error, along with so many other things in that article, is enough for them to pull the article. And I want to make sure that they are aware of these glaring mistakes in the piece. Now, that's as friendly of a conversation as I can have regarding this, because Anoa is my friend. She is. And I do take this personally. I do. But I'm going to do what NPR did not do, and I'm going to objectively address the issue, not just from, at least when I speak to them. Now, on my Twitter timeline, it's fair game. Like, I'm a totally different person on Twitter. I tell people all the time, you don't want to follow me on Twitter. You don't, because you won't like me. So that's neither here nor there. But in the conversation, I have some very pointed questions that cut to the heart of the matter. Now, as far as today's podcast, I don't want to talk about that article specifically because I still have to get answers from them. I want to hear from them on the record. But I do want to talk about this mind-blowing phenomenon of 2016 and beyond, that I look around me and it really feels as though everyone is losing their minds. And I don't say that from an ableist perspective. I'm not trying to be ableist about this. I'm saying this in the sense that the election of Donald Trump has really triggered something in the brains of a lot of Americans, or it has exposed us for what we have been all along. I'll let you make that call. But what I've seen on the left, on the right, in some black people, in white people, I've just seen, not just that, I've just seen quite a few people who have lost all sense of reality from opposing sides. So it's one thing for me to say, okay, since the election of Donald Trump, racists have begun racing, to just be ridiculous with my language today, right? They've become more racist, or they have engaged in more racist activity, which is true. It is also true that there was so much racist activity that was already here, But there is a component of racism that has escalated since the election of Donald Trump. And so to that extent, it seems as though some white people, particularly white racist people who probably didn't even realize they were racist, they're losing their minds and their racism is coming on full display. And I attach this to Donald Trump because I believe in this perspective, Donald Trump empowers them, right? It empowers them, and then they behave. And take, for instance, the elderly woman here in Georgia who got into a fight with a pregnant woman in military fatigue. A white woman got into a fight with a black woman who was pregnant and in military fatigue, caught on video, and ended up being arrested. Now, did this grandmother think that she had it in her to be as ignorant as she was? To a troop, no less. Now, don't take my observations for naivete, right? I am very aware of the capabilities or the limitless capabilities of stupidity and racism. But people up until this point, or at least for a small brief period in American history, let's dig down, right? Let's say, when did it become taboo to be racist? Not in the 60s, they were full blown. Not in the 70s, somewhere around the 80s, late 80s. It's hard to push, but it was only a very brief period in American history where you didn't want to be known as a racist. Even if you were racist, you knew how to hide it. And the portion that I'm talking about of the brain that has been lost after the election of Donald Trump, the portion of the brain that has been lost is the portion that had enough intelligence to at least disguise their racism. That portion of their brain is not functioning anymore. They don't even care about hiding it. And now they're being held accountable for it. That's just one side of the equation. The real reason I'm talking about this is because liberals are losing their minds with the entire Russia narrative. Now, granted, just like with racist, I think this level of naivete and willful obtuseness has always been there. It just so happens that over the last 8 years, when Republicans and conservatives and conservative media attacked President Obama, it just so happened that conservatives were far more ignorant, far more obtuse, and far more unhinged than liberals. And because of that, rather, liberals could take an intellectual perspective and have the high ground. They could both be intellectual, have the high ground, and fight back. But now Donald Trump is in office, and the tool that they have decided to latch onto to be their saving grace has been not the Russia narrative per se, because I don't quickly dismiss Russia like many of you in my audience do. I happen to think that there is something there, and I'm willing to wait for Mueller to finish his investigation to say, yes, there was something there. No, there wasn't anything there. And I'm cool with whatever Mueller comes out with. Right? So it's not to say that the problem is the Russia narrative per se. It is the extent to which liberals are running with this narrative, and they consider themselves some type of super sleuth of smoking out Russian activity in the United States. And that phrase in and of itself shows the derangement of liberals in this era of Trump. It is brought to us courtesy of our media outlets. And at one time you could watch Rachel Maddow and actually get something substantive. And I actually liked watching Rachel Maddow. Now you can't watch Rachel Maddow without, honestly, if you're looking at it through objective lenses, every now and then, maybe more frequently, I don't know. I just watch her every now and then. And I look at her and I'm like, what the holy hell has happened to her? Obviously, the answer is ratings, because there's a fury. There is a franticness that's happening in liberals that she is fueling, and she is seizing the moment and she's capitalizing on it. So, from that perspective, it's an open and shut case. However, For people as dumb as me who actually like to be true to yourself and true to your brand and true to your core message and not allow your core message to shift with the changing times, I look at it with disgust and I realize that MSNBC as well as NPR, organizations, at least NPR, we'll talk about NPR in a minute. Let's talk about MSNBC. They are fueling a hysteria and a level of obtuseness, willful obtuseness in the minds of liberals that can easily be compared apples to apples with Fox News viewers. In other words, MSNBC is turning their viewers into Fox News viewers, all underneath the guise of resisting Trump. And here's the thing. Trump should be resisted. There is plenty of material. It's so disappointing. There's plenty to work with here, people. There is so much that Donald Trump gives you to resist him on furiously, like with all the passion and might that you have, such that you don't have to dumb yourself down and see red scares in every closet, the red boogeyman, and to push a all-out war with Russia. I mean, it was just a few years ago, 2012, when Barack Obama said that, the 80s want their foreign policy back from Mitt Romney, who saw Russia as the greatest geopolitical threat that we had at the time. It was just 2012. And now you would think that liberals have been engaged in a covert war against communism and Russia since the Cold War, and the Cold War never ended. All we need is a few good baby boomers to save the day. And it's not just baby boomers. I don't want to be ageist. There's some young liberals. That means you guys have lost your minds. You guys, you people, you individuals are not, you have betrayed all intelligence in order to resist Trump when Trump has given you so much material to work with, such that you never had to stoop to the level of being a Fox News viewer. That's what's happening. And I think it's safe to say that 2018 is the year that it finally was completed, that liberals have done away with all of their remaining intelligence in order to resist Trump. So what am I talking about specifically? I'm talking about this paranoia, this, I keep saying the phrase willful obtuseness, this willingness to reduce semi-complicated or conversations that require semi-nuance, willing to wash and forget all of that, just throw that all away and simply say Russia bad. Not even necessarily as simple as Putin bad, because I can argue that pretty straightforward based on the facts that Putin is a dangerous autocrat who needs to be watched. Even from a leftist perspective, he is an imperialist himself. Putin is most certainly a violator of human rights. I mean, look at the people that his administration look at the people who have died. Look at the journalists who have been imprisoned. So if you were to say Putin bad, I think I would just agree with you and that would be the end of conversation. But no, they are equating everything with Russia to simply being bad. So much so that I'm sure that there's some liberals who've thrown out a lot of good Russian vodka because they just think that that's the patriotic thing to do. This is how ignorant our times are right now. And what I don't know if I mourn, but what is so disappointing is the fact that these are the people who 2012 nuance was their thing. I mean, they refused to let anyone reduce Barack Obama down to a overly simplistic, any type of interpretation. They required nuance. They got on television to discuss nuance. Now it's really simplified down to where their viewers, the viewers of MSNBC, and now it's completed. I know this has been an ongoing process. I've talked about it before, and there's plenty of journalists and commentators who've talked about this in great detail. In fact, some people make this their entire platform, which I think is another example of how our brains have kind of malfunctioned in the presence of Donald Trump. I think it is a thing. I think this media frenzy, and I think their over sensationalization of the issue of Russia is an issue. I think MSNBC is doing a disservice. I think that is an issue, but I don't think it's an issue to make it your show every single day. Not at all. But the process has been ongoing, and people and some critics have been making note of it over the last few years. But now it's complete. Now they have completely lost their minds. And here we are, where you have people who simply say, "Oh, you went to Russia? You've been to Russia before? You actually stepped foot in Russia? You must be a Russian stooge." That's where we are. That's how overly simplistic things are. And this is where people who at one time considered themselves to be the intellectuals are now this intentionally obtuse. So she walked in the middle of my recording and into the studio that we're building. We're going to try to get a video out today. But welcome to the studio. Welcome to the show.
It sounds really good.
That's the music that I have in the background.
I thought we were about to go into like a good little track here. It sounds so good.
Here, let me turn that down. As you can tell, Rebecca Azor is here in the studio with me. And I said, you know what? Let's just put her to work since she's here. I don't like to record in front of people unless they're participating. How are you today, Rebecca?
I'm doing great.
You can't click away on the keyboard.
Well, I was actually going to pull up the story. I was actually pulling up the story that we're about to talk about. So
what's the story? You
know the Starbucks guys, the two men?
Yeah.
That were disrespected
in 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes.
So they got to Starbucks at 4:15, and they were asked to leave at 4, or the police were called at 4:17.
It was something like that, but I know it was 2 minutes.
It was 2 minutes. Yeah.
So hashtag 2 minutes. Okay. Now imagine walking into a joint or a spot, and how long does it take you to
even get situated?
Adjust your little shirt, adjust your pants, look out the window for a second.
Drop your bag.
Look at yourself.
Take your laptop out.
They didn't have time to look at social media. And the police were already called. You know what I mean? So when you're in Starbucks, we go over there and chill. We use all every free resource that we can. We use their Wi-Fi. Yep. We use their time. We use their seats.
Whatever
their
we can
water
get for free with
ice,
water.
Okay? We socialize with the person next to us, possibly.
That's the business model, right? I think Kev on stage, comedian, I mentioned this on Monday. That's the business model of Starbucks. That's how they make money, because people are going to stay there long enough to eventually buy something. But we don't have to rehash the story as much as what one of the fellas said about his incident. One of the two guys who was arrested after only being in Starbucks for 2 minutes. What did they say?
So allegedly, this is what one of them said, and this is, I guess, the Q Dog.
The one that's in the Omega Psi Phi fraternity incorporated.
Yeah, exactly, that one. He said this is basically an everybody issue.
That it's not a black issue.
It's not a black issue,
right?
So,
houseway. That's what I want to know.
My issue with that is, like I was telling you before, you can't say stuff like that. Not when you just you know this is a black issue. They came up, you didn't walk into the Starbucks for 2 minutes, okay? And all of a sudden, you walking out in handcuffs, okay? And your white counterpart, the one that you were meeting with, walks in and is, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? And you just can't say nothing because you know that everything you say will be used against you. If you even shift a little bit wrong, you're going to get shot. So, this is a black issue, okay? So, what I was telling you was that if he meant, because I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, if he meant that white folks disrespecting people in these businesses by calling police officers, that's an issue right there. Then police officers showing up knowing that it's not an issue, but still taking the people to jail because you're black, so that's an issue right there.
So you mean like if he said that in the most literal sense, if he said that this is everyone's issue, this is the police officer's issue for doing this is the manager's issue, if that's what he said, then you agree with him?
And then if he ended it with, and this is the black folks issue.
Do you think that's what he said?
Only because y'all made an issue to us when we're not really an issue. So that's the issue. Yeah, he should have broken it down like that. Because.
Do you think that's what he meant?
I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know? Listen, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt only because.
I don't know if I'm in the business of giving.
Only because he allowed us to take it and be behind him and rally behind him.
But he didn't have any choice. Because listen,
no, he did. Because he came out and said, you know what?
Because people have done that.
It's not their fault. I don't see it as her fault. And, you know, we're just going to, people are people. And people do bad things sometimes,
right?
So we're just gonna love in this moment.
I've encountered this before. Of course, everybody remembers the infamous Rodney King statement: "Can't we all just get along?"
But he probably meant it at that time.
I don't give a damn, because there was not a time for us to get along, because the system will use people, victims. They would use them as a means of propping up the system so that nothing ever changes, right? Mm-hmm. They would take a person who's gotten their head beat in and say, okay, all this is going on. This is all this chaos going. I know we beat your head in. I know we almost made you blind in one eye. I know we crippled you, but could you come out here and calm the people down? When it's the anger of the people who are protesting that actually are the ones who can get some change. And so what they do is they take an individual like Rodney King, and I got another example that you and I both know of. They take someone like Rodney King to try to settle down the movement that would actually fight for change. You know what I mean?
So what's the alternative to can we all just get along, or this is an everybody issue?
Change the system.
Change the system, which you've been saying. No justice, no peace. Black lives matter.
Exactly. There is no alternative. There is no can we, because for the definition for can we all get along, what does it mean to get along? Because they'll use don't bother us. Yeah. Don't make us uncomfortable. Don't challenge the system. Don't change anything. Just sit there and be quiet. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, look at this. Look at it like, can we all just get along? Well, hell, we can't even kneel in peace. We can't even kneel without someone losing their career. We can't kneel. We can't even do a show on ABC when we talk about everything else. We can't even do a show about kneeling because they want us to all just get along. So that's been a tool by people in power forever, to keep those of us who are out of power from ever obtaining power. We can't make this a kind of a platitude moment where you just kind of say something nice and you try to create a kumbaya moment, is actually what I call it. You can't make a kumbaya moment out of this. These things have to be confronted head on. They have to be confronted head on, and they have to be, they're difficult conversations, they're uncomfortable conversations, and they're, quite frankly, some things that we're going to have to argue about. There's some things that we're going to have to hash out that is going to be ugly. And you don't resolve these things by simply saying, can we all just get along? So I don't know what this guy's intention, the guy who was one of the two men arrested, I don't know what his intention was with that statement. You want to give him the benefit of the doubt, that's cool. I can't speak for him, but I will say that I've been in that kind of situation before. You remember Corey Jones? Mm-hmm. I went to the rally for him and his brother, clearly he was grieving, but he got up there at the rally and said, it's not Black Lives Matter, it's all lives matter. And he just kept saying that over and over again. And I wanted to be like, bruh, listen, we're not out here marching for all lives matter. We're out here marching for Black Lives Matter. We're out here marching for your brother who was killed because he was a black man and this police officer was afraid of him. So I've been in situations where you literally just have to walk away from certain people because they will sabotage their own best interests in hopes of creating a quote unquote kumbaya moment, because they think that this is the more enlightened thing to do. It's another component to this also. You're religious, right? You're spiritual. You believe in God. I am too. I'm not
Christian. I believe in God. I have a relationship with God.
Religious that's a good thing. Yeah.
Really strong term, but yeah.
Well, but it's not totally inaccurate. It's like, it's part, it's what you love the Lord. He heard your cry and pitied your every groan. So do I. Right. But there's another component. There's this aspect of, whenever something happens to Black Christians, it's like Black Christians always make an effort to say, I forgive them. It's like the very first thing that happened after the Mother Emanuel AME shooting was the next morning they were in court. After they arrested Dylan Roof, they were in court, and every black person there made a thing to say, "I forgive you." Now, at the time, I defended them and I still kind of defend them. They could deal with this however they want to deal with this. This is their grief. They have the right to decide how they want to deal with it. But I think as it becomes problematic to the cause if we systemically make that our bar to achieve, right? If you make it the most important thing in your life as a culture, as a people, to forgive the people who are hurting you, like that's the crown jewel of your achievements, then you'll never get them. You'll never stop them from hurting you. They'll always be in a position of, I can hurt you because I know you're going to forgive me. What do you think about that?
I will say, nah, because for me, maybe it's the God in me. Maybe it's, me having a relationship with God and how, I choose to go about things. But I cannot go on and just have this hate in my heart for something I can't get back. I can't get back my child. I can't get back my grandmother. I can't get back, anything like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to just hold on to this hate for this person. That's going to take away from me living my life. And if I want to make a change for whatever happened, that doesn't mean I'm going to walk around here and be like, just because I said I forgive you for what you did, you're still going to get, mm-hmm. whatever happens to you, hopefully. And, let God handle that, or the justice system handle that, however it works. But I'm not going to forget it. Now, that's where you have to understand. I forgive you for what you did because my son, my nobody's coming back. Right. But I'm not going to forget what you did. So when I see people like you, when I stand up and I'm rallying against people like you, I'm rallying. That doesn't mean that they're not going to rally against racism or whatever. That's just something that they have to do to cope in life. Because I'm not going to sit here and look at every white man and just assume that this man is going to walk up into my church and kill whoever. Because that's what I'll do if I don't forgive you. I'm going to now, that's going to leak into my life.
Yeah, but maybe it should leak into your life, right? Maybe it should leak into your life because chances are, you have a better chance of being killed by a Dylan than you do a Hassan, right? That just statistically in the United States of America, you're more likely to be killed by a white man than like someone of the Muslim faith or someone of Arabic descent, Middle Eastern descent. So, it should become something that you mark in your brain. Well, and in your life to a certain extent, to be wary of the people who have abused you, not only currently, but historically.
But Ben, just because they say they forgive them, that doesn't mean that they don't understand what happened, that they're not walking around here like, you know what?
Well, I'm sure the Mother AME, Emanuel AME, and they are on high alert at all times.
And I get that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm doing exactly what you said. Yeah.
So, but forgiving somebody does not mean that,
But what if no action?
I sent you on your way, but that doesn't mean, how we know what they're doing is no action,
No, I'm asking the question, what if what follows is no action, like the end point of what you do and your interaction with this system? Because they're literally religious people, the state senator from Florida who literally got up there and said she thanks God for slavery, because if it wasn't for slavery, she would not have learned about Christianity. And notwithstanding the fact that she's historically wrong, like Christianity was in Africa before, long before slavery, it was in Africa. Never mind the fact that she's wrong, but that mindset becomes the fuel behind this entire all lives matter, like, can we all just get along, kumbaya stuff, because they wrap it in, they so frequently wrap it in Jesus, and it becomes a stumbling block to actually getting justice. Now, not in all cases, clearly.
What that woman said to me is totally different. Mm-hmm. She's wrong, and she should be, like, if she was
embarrassed,
in my face, she should be embarrassed. She should, like, that's liable to get these hands on Jesus. but these women who chose to forgive, or these men who chose to forgive, or whatever, that's because, I'm telling you, you become a mental case. If you sit here and and even if you don't forgive, but if you harbor this hate on this situation, and you would not be able to live your life. And if that's their coping mechanism,
and that's literally what I said 2 years ago.
After you forgive, now I'm that type of chick.
I know,
right? I forgive you. But after that
you still got to pay.
I'm gonna let you know that right now. Okay? Now, I'm going to still, like, okay, for instance, if a man cheats on me, I know this is whatever, but if a man cheats on me, or, no, I'm not even going to go there. A woman has disrespected me to the core at the Target across the street from where I used to stay, right? Because I'm black. She disrespected me. I'm going to still continue to shop at this Target, and I'm still going to continue to go into her line like I did. She disrespected me because I was black. I got her together that day, and I told her, I'm not even going to get mad at you. You probably having a bad day, okay? You probably whatever, but I'm still going to come to this Target, and I'm still going to pay my money while you work your little shift or whatever the case may be. And I'm going to make sure you check. I'm going to make sure I go talk to your supervisor or whatever so they know what's good. They know where I stand on the situation. I forgive you, but I'm never going to forget it. So when I come over here and I look at you crazy, but I smile, and I ain't going to let this thing harbor me, because what I can't do is go over there and make a scene every time I go into that Target.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But what I'm not going to, see, this is the thing. After you forgive doesn't mean that there's no action that's going to follow. That's not
but on the spectrum, though, there's clearly on the spectrum a lot of religious black Christian. I know this because I'm just as steeped in it as you are, right? I've seen firsthand where the end point, the end of everything for them is like forgiving, and God is going to take care of it. Forgiving is one thing, but if you're just going to sit back and say God is going to fix everything, then your problems won't change. Like, you're literally here, physically here. You have to do the work. So forgiveness is fine, and people should be able to cope and deal with these things, like you said. Exactly. I mean, literally, I got into a 2-hour debate online with Yvette Carnell about this exact thing, like 2 years ago when it happened. So I agree with you from that perspective. But only thing I would add to it this year differently is that if that becomes your end point, then you aren't helping. You're actually hindering the movement for justice.
And I agree with you there. You shouldn't just say, I forgive, and go sit down and take the money the state gave you for your grievances or whatever the case may be.
You threw that in there.
Hello. You should, continue to fight that fight, because now you're in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And whatever way you want to fight that fight, though, but you got to contribute to what's happening, because now you're in it, and somebody's looking at you. Somebody's looking at you for help. Somebody's looking at you to see how you dealt with your situation. Somebody's looking at you to see how they can try to find justice, in their child's name, or in their husband's name, or in their uncle's name, or in their father's name, whatever. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so whatever you do, you now have become a part of what God wants you to do. That's your purpose, I believe. So that's what people have to understand. God equipped you. When he put you, I'm not going to preach, but let me tell you.
You sound like you're about to preach today.
I'm not. But when you go through something, Ben, this is what people have to understand. And I think this is where
you go through something to help someone else.
I believe it all the way. Your story, you now are a story. You now have a purpose. There's a shift that happened in your life. And it's now, you cannot just say, I forgive
Jesus.
you.
Y'all should see her. She's literally pulling out the Bible. She's pulling the Bible out.
You cannot just say, I forgive you, and go to sleep.
I don't bring out the anointing oil. The anointing oil will mess up the equipment in here, Rebecca.
Shut up. You got to say, I forgive you, and now God equipped me to get this popping, because I'm about to get it popping.
Yeah.
What I know
is that I forgive
you, and it's never going to happen again. Not under my watch, not in my community.
But here's the reason I bring it up, though, and I know we're way over time. Here's the reason I bring it up. It's really analogous. I cannot.
Trying to be extra this morning.
Analogous.
And that's all
analogous. Right. There it goes. It's really analogous with the left and pacifism and people who don't believe in any type of conflict. There's like a neutering that happens, for lack of a better phrase. Like, when you remove anger from your activism, then you are in an asymmetrical fight with people who have weaponized anger. The right, they're angry all the time. They're angry about Obama's tan suit. They were angry about Obama using Grey Poupon. They were angry about, anything and everything. They know they have perfectly weaponized their anger. And we on our side are sitting here like, but I forgive you. No, we're not going to, let's all get along and that kind of thing. There's no progress that could ever happen if we're engaged we're not even engaged in a conflict. Think about it. It's like a person who's sitting there just hit up aside the head every single day. And then they're like, things will change eventually. Nah, my dude, you got to get up and fight back.
Yeah. No, see, I forgive you, but now I'm about to fight this. Because now what happened is I can't change what the justice system already told you. You're going to get your little 1 year or your little 6 months.
Right.
But what I'm going to make sure happens is this is not going to happen to anybody else.
Ever
or
again.
I can try to prevent this from happening from anybody else. Now we're going to start correcting these officers. We're going to start making sure, we hold these the law responsible, accountable.
Yeah.
We're gonna call it out for. When I walk into a store and I see racism, I'm gonna call that thing out. Let me tell you, you ain't seen the last of me. I forgive you for what you did, but I'm going to now. You struck something up inside of me to start looking at this racism and call it out. Let me tell you something. I put this on Twitter the other day. I'm like, you know what? I was one of those people that sat there and was like, damn, I saw that white lady looking at me crazy, but I'm just going to walk away from it. No, you know what? Not today. I am going to start be like, that's racist. You're being racist. Okay? Oh, listen. I'm going to start calling out racism so everybody gets uncomfortable every single day, every minute. I forgive you for being racist, but I'm gonna call it out. I'm gonna let you know you were racist. Try it again with me, and I'm gonna let you know it's not gonna be.
Hey, I hear you.
So
you're just so animated with this.
But that's where I'm saying, you can forgive, but you don't have to forget, because I'm gonna make sure you don't forget what you did, how you did it.
And what I'm saying is, you can forgive and do whatever you need to do for your own personal healing. And this is ultimately what I said about the people from Mother Emanuel AME. This fight their particular fight is too personal, too close. They went through too much damage. They lost too much for them to have to fight this. They let them forgive and do whatever they have to do to heal. But the rest of us, see, I ain't got to forgive nobody because they didn't do it to me. I could be angry as angry as I need to be. That's where the rest of us need to step in and take it up and be like, okay, you know what? You can't do this, so I'll do this. The only thing that we don't need them to do is to insert themselves like this guy from Starbucks may have. I don't know his intention.
Stop
but
everybody.
But if he did,
yeah,
exactly. Don't do that because you take the steam out of the rest of us who are fighting on your behalf, right? The rest of us, while we recognize you can't do this and you shouldn't have to do this.
That's when we start looking crazy.
Yeah, we out here fighting for you, and you telling us to sit down.
How dare you?
We put ourselves out here like this. Rebecca, tell the folks how to get up with you.
So you guys can get up with me on Twitter at Rebecca Zor, REBECCAZOR. That's REBECCAZOR. Like I always say on our show, like it or not. You love me out there on the Twitterverse, I'm going to give you love right back. Or you can follow me on Facebook at Rebecca Azor as well. That's REBECCAZOR. I'll be there with my long
So one has two A's.
Drake.
One has two A's.
No, one is my first name, last name. And on Twitter, my handle is just Rebecca Zor. REBECCAZOR.
So one has two A's in it and one has one A. Twitter has one A.
Twitter has one name. Facebook is my first and last name.
Yeah, makes sense. Not at all. Thanks so much for hanging. See you guys Monday. See everyone on Monday. Take care.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.